I met Michael first in Ireland.
In 1963, Dana Wynter was offered nearly $680,000 in today's money to open a performance center in South Africa. She said no. Her agent warned this would destroy her career, but that was just the beginning. For 13 years, she worked in secret. The FBI watched her. She used a code name, and she donated over $2 million to causes Hollywood wanted buried. By the time the truth came out, she had already disappeared. Today, we're uncovering the double life of an actress who chose silence over stardom. Dana Wynter was born on June 8, 1931, in Berlin. Her birth name was Dagmar Wynter. That year, Germany was already changing fast. Hitler hadn't taken full power yet, but people could feel something dangerous was coming. Just 2 years later, in 1933, Hitler took control. Dana's father was a British surgeon with German roots, and her mother was Hungarian. That mix of backgrounds became risky in a country where Nazis were starting to push hard for racial purity. Dana was just a baby when her family realized they couldn't stay in Germany. The political climate had turned frightening. Jews were being targeted. People with foreign connections were being watched. So they packed up and left for England. But peace didn't last long there either. In 1939, when Dana was 8, her father traveled to Morocco for a surgery. The woman he treated trusted no one else. After the operation, he went to visit some friends in southern Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. What he saw there changed everything. He fell in love with the land, the space, the life, and just like that, he decided to move the entire family there. Dana didn't get a say. Her teenage years were suddenly being shaped by a completely different world. In Rhodesia, Dana saw things that stayed with her forever. The country was under British colonial rule. White people, less than 5% of the population, controlled nearly everything. Black Africans were pushed into poor areas and treated like they didn't matter. Dana, still just a teenager, couldn't ignore it. The rules told people where they could live, who they could talk to, and even where they could sit. She saw this every day. She saw the pain in people's eyes. And though she was just a girl, it left a deep mark. This would later become part of her drive to speak against apartheid. Around this time, Dana decided to change more than just her address. She changed her name. She no longer wanted to be Dagmar. She chose Dana and pronounced it Darnu. It wasn't just about sounding different. It was about becoming someone new, someone who could shape her own story. In 1949, she started medical school at Rhodes University. She was the only girl in a class of 150 boys. It was tough. The school was strict. The society was old-fashioned. And Dana was trying to be something no one expected, a female doctor in a man's world, but her heart wasn't in it. While studying medicine, she joined a play and played a blind girl. She later said the performance was terrible, but it opened something inside her. She began to question everything. Why was she in medicine? Was it just to follow her father? She started to see that acting gave her a voice, a place to feel, a way to express the things she had no words for growing up in two worlds, Europe and Africa. In 1950, she made a decision that shocked her family. She quit medical school just like that. She walked away from everything her father had planned. She had no savings, no connections in acting, and no idea how she'd survive. The family didn't understand. She started taking small jobs, radio shows, a bit of modeling, anything that paid. But it wasn't easy. The entertainment world in Johannesburg was just as divided as the rest of the country. Black performers were kept out of white venues. Police were always around, making things worse. Dana saw all of this, and it made her angrier. The rules weren't just unfair, they were cruel. Even her own success felt wrong, built on a system that hurt others. In Johannesburg, she faced other problems too. Men ran the industry. Women were expected to smile and stay quiet. Dana didn't want that. She wanted real work, but the jobs were few, and the pay was bad. Some weeks, she worked 3 jobs just to buy food. She couldn't rely on anyone. Everything she did was for survival. By 1951, she knew she needed a bigger stage. She left for London with big dreams and almost no money. She enrolled at RADA, one of the top drama schools, but after just 6 months, she had to drop out. The fees were too high. Even with help, she needed around $500 a year, about $15,000 today. Her father was respected, but the money just wasn't there. She was stuck. She had already given up medicine, and now acting school had slipped away too. She started waiting tables. She modeled for artists. She lived in tiny rented rooms and went to auditions with the same dress every time. In 1952, she got a tiny role in a film called The Woman's Angle. She was on screen for 3 minutes. They paid her $15 for it. Still, that role saved her. It gave her just enough hope to keep trying. But the roles didn't come easily. Casting agents said her accent was confusing. Too British for foreign roles. Too foreign for British ones. In 2 years, she went to over 200 auditions. Many ended in minutes. Sometimes she didn't eat properly for days. Once, she pawned her father's watch just to buy bread. In winter 1952, she got sick, bronchitis. No money for heat. She stood in department store windows as a mannequin to earn 10 shillings a day. That winter, she thought about quitting acting forever. She even looked into moving to Australia as a secretary. But something inside her wouldn't give up. Then, in late 1953, she took a massive risk. She moved to New York with just $127. No job, no legal work papers. A tiny talent agency gave her a chance. She acted in Robert Montgomery Presents. She earned $75 for her first role, but couldn't even open a proper bank account. She lived in a shared apartment in Hell's Kitchen. Rent was $12 a week, split 4 ways. For food, she spent 50 cents a day, mostly peanut butter sandwiches. While she looked glamorous on TV, she was barely surviving off-screen. During this time, she turned down multiple modeling contracts. Some paid over $200 a month, more than actors made. She was asked to pose for men's magazines, cigarette ads, even lingerie catalogs. She said no to all of it. She once told her agent, "I'd rather starve than sell my dignity." That wasn't just a line. She meant it. She stuck to that belief, even when she had nothing. In 1955, her life changed again. At a party in Beverly Hills, she met Greg Boldest. He was a top Hollywood lawyer who had dated everyone from Joan Crawford to Lana Turner. Dana didn't want anything to do with him. She changed her number every time he called, but he didn't give up. He even paid secretaries to find her new numbers. After 4 months, she gave in. They married on June 10th, 1956. The press couldn't believe it. Hollywood's most eligible bachelor had finally settled down. They had 1 son and stayed married for 25 years until 1981. In 1955, Dana Wynter's entire life changed. For years, she had been drifting through small roles, often credited as Dagmar Wynter. But then 3 major Hollywood studios came after her all at once. That almost never happened. She chose 20th Century Fox. They gave her a 7-year deal worth over $350,000, which would be around $4 million today. That decision came right after a screen test that left the Fox executives stunned. They called her their answer to Grace Kelly. And not long after that, she won a Golden Globe as one of the most promising newcomers of the year. She shared the award with Anita Ekberg and Victoria Shaw. What shocked people even more was where she came from. Before acting, Dana had been the only girl in a pre-med class of over 150 boys at Rhodes University in South Africa. She had planned to be a doctor, but gave it all up without looking back. That same year, Fox gave her a lead role in a film called The View from Pompey's Head. But everything started going wrong behind the scenes. Gregory Peck was supposed to be her co-star, but he pulled out. Fox begged MGM to lend them Glenn Ford, but they refused, so they cast Richard Egan instead. The director, Philip Dunn, later said he had written the story for Bill Holden and Audrey Hepburn, but ended up with Wynter and Egan, who he said were good actors, but didn't have the same spark. The film cost $100,000 just to get the rights, which would be about $1.2 million now. It was shot in coastal Georgia, which was unusual at the time, and Wynter had to deal with heat, bugs, and pressure. Critics focused more on her looks than her performance, but she pushed through. In 1956, she starred in D-Day, the 6th of June. It was supposed to be Gene Simmons in the lead role, but for reasons no one ever fully explained, Wynter replaced her after the film had already started getting promoted. Fox had to redo half the materials. Her character was caught between 2 men, played by Robert Taylor and Richard Todd. The twist was that Todd had actually parachuted into Normandy during the real D-Day landings. Robert Taylor was 45 at the time, and rumors started flying that he and Wynter were having an affair off-screen, even though he was married. The movie cost more than $2.8 million and had over 500 extras for the D-Day scenes. Wynter later said this was her favorite film, even though the romance didn't end happily. She said, "They did the right thing, but it still didn't work out." Then came Invasion of the Body Snatchers in 1956, and it almost didn't happen for her. The movie was supposed to be shot in 24 days with a $450 budget, but the studio panicked and slashed it to just 20 days and $350,000. All the big names, Anne Bancroft, Donna Reed, Kim Hunter, got dropped because they cost too much. Dana was still under contract at Fox, and they loaned her out to the smaller Allied Artists studio. The movie became a cult classic. It was low budget, but the story about people being replaced by emotionless duplicates hit a nerve in the middle of the Cold War. Film historians say all the remakes failed because they missed the intimacy and realism Wynter and the original cast brought. Sam Peckinpah even had a tiny part in it as a meter reader before he became famous. In 1957, she acted in Something of Value with Rock Hudson and Sidney Poitier. The director, Richard Brooks, was known for being intense. He was rude to Wynter and tough on Hudson just to get real emotion from them. The film was shot in Kenya and cost $2 million. Brooks and Hudson even met secretly with real Mau Mau rebels, which could have gone very wrong. Wynter had to deal with racism in the region, while Brooks made sure Poitier was protected. The scenes showed actual rituals that pushed the boundaries of what censors allowed in the 1950s. The haunting choral soundtrack became one of the most memorable in films set in Africa. Critics said Wynter's performance showed how complex and dangerous those times really were. Then, in 1958, she played a woman named Erika Angermann in Fräulein. It was one of the most controversial films of the decade. She played a German professor's daughter who had been engaged to a Nazi officer. The original novel had even more difficult scenes, including a marriage to a Black American soldier and prostitution, but the studio cut all of that from the script. It still stirred outrage. The movie cost $1.4 million and ran 95 minutes. Some critics praised her charm, while others were uncomfortable with how the story made German characters too sympathetic. Just 13 years after the war ended, in 1959, she starred opposite James Cagney in Shake Hands with the Devil, a brutal film about the Irish War of Independence. They used real explosives during filming and several people got injured. It cost $2 million to make and ran 111 minutes. Wynter filmed some of her scenes in a lighthouse during freezing winds at the Bray coastline. She was surrounded by pyrotechnics and claustrophobic settings that made her performance feel even more real. The shadows, the fog, the tension, everything worked. Cagney was nearly hurt in a shootout scene. It ended up being his last death scene on screen. In 1960, she played a Navy officer named Ann Davis in Sink the Bismarck. The film cost $2.5 million and ran for 111 minutes. At first, her character was supposed to be an equal to Kenneth More's lead role, but the director, Louis Gilbert, kept cutting her lines. They argued constantly. Wynter said, "Women in the Royal Naval Service during W. had real responsibilities, but the producers turned her into a side character instead." The royal premiere took place on February 11, 1960, with the Duke of Edinburgh attending. The movie did well, and Johnny Horton's song "Sink the Bismarck" made $500,000 in the US, but Wynter didn't get any share of that. Then in 1965, Dana Wynter turned down The Sound of Music. Fox offered her the lead role before Julie Andrews. She said no. She was tired of being cast as the same elegant woman over and over. She knew it would be a hit, but said no anyway. The movie made $286 million, had 283 million admissions, and stayed in theaters for 4.5 years. It won 5 Oscars and became one of the biggest hits in history. Her decision made her famous in a different way for walking away. After her contract with Fox ended, she turned to television. In 1961, she joined Wagon Train and nearly collapsed from heat exhaustion during filming. Between 1961 and 1975, she appeared in over 40 episodes across 25 shows. She earned about $10,000 per episode, and sometimes as much as $15,000, though she had to negotiate hard to get it. She was in Cannon 3 times and starred in 12 O'Clock High. In 1965, she did The Alfred Hitchcock Hour in an episode called An Unlocked Window. That episode won the Edgar Award and paid her $12,500 for 5 days of work. She clashed with Sidney Pollack over the script, but gave a chilling performance. She refused to get typecast afterward, even though more offers came in. Later, she moved to Ireland and joined Bracken, a local soap opera that aired from 1980 to 1982. She played Jill Daly, not Valerie Butler, as some mistakenly say. She bought a house in Glendalough for $45,000 and made just $2,500 per episode. Still, she loved it. It was tough working in Ireland's weather, but she called it liberating. The locals were cold to her at first, but she won them over by learning Gaelic phrases and working hard. In 1981 and 1982, she guest-starred in Magnum P.I. as Olivia Ross and Velma Trobshaw. She was 50 years old, and the role was written for someone 35. She only got it after 3 younger actresses turned it down. She earned $8,500 per episode, far less than what she used to make. She later said, "Hollywood discards women over 45 like yesterday's newspapers." The Foiled Again episode was her last major American TV role. By 1983, her agent dropped her. In 2008, when she was 77, she got caught up in a legal mess over a painting worth $125,000. It was a Paul Henry painting called Evening on Achill Sound. Her son Mark said he bought it for her in 1996, but when the painting was sold, other relatives said they were owed part of the money. The court battle lasted 18 months. Wynter had thought it was worth only $30,000. She ended up with 2/3 of the money, but nearly $40,000 went to legal fees. She had been married to Gregson Boutzer from 1956 to 1981. He was one of the most famous divorce lawyers in Hollywood and had dated Lana Turner, Joan Crawford, Ginger Rogers, and Dorothy Lamour. He never really changed. Even during the marriage, he chased younger actresses constantly. Wynter later found out that many of those women were also his clients. Their divorce was messy, with headlines and heartbreak. After giving birth to her son in 1962, Wynter suffered from postpartum depression. She hid it from everyone. She skipped public events, turned down roles, and even thought about ending her life. But she didn't. She kept going, mostly for her son. She got therapy in secret and pretended she was just going to spa treatments. It took her almost 2 years to recover. By 1972, she bought a big Georgian-style home in Glendalough for over $650,000. It became her sanctuary. After the divorce in 1981, she divided her time between Ireland and California. Locals said she was private but kind, always giving to the community but keeping her past to herself. The home was decorated with Irish furniture, and it's where she started writing again. Her lawyers made sure that her husband couldn't touch the property during the divorce. In 2004, that same house was robbed. A different Paul Henry painting was stolen, worth $125,000. The thieves had planned everything. She had been gone for a month, and when she returned, the house was ransacked. She hired private investigators and spent years trying to find it. It ended up in Germany. The court ruled in her favor, and she got it back. It was a reminder that even late in life, she never stopped fighting for what was hers. In 1963, Dana Wynter was offered something that most actors would have accepted without thinking. It was a deal worth about $75,000, which today would be nearly $680,000. They wanted her to open a brand new performance center in Johannesburg, South Africa. It sounded like a great career move, but when she found out the center would be run under apartheid rules, where black and white children had to come on different days, she walked away. She gave up the money, the fame, and the connection. Her agent warned her this could end her career, but she said clearly she couldn't live with herself knowing kids were being separated just because of their skin color. This happened just weeks after the Sharpeville massacre, which had already shown the world how brutal apartheid really was. By 1965, Dana was secretly working behind the scenes. For the next 13 years, until 1978, she became a hidden part of the anti-apartheid movement in London. She went to secret meetings in safe houses across Europe. She donated over $340,000 of her own money during that time, which would be worth more than $2.1 million today. She helped smuggle banned books and magazines into South Africa using her contacts in the film industry. She even helped pay for the schooling of 47 South African kids living in exile during the Soweto uprising in 1976. The FBI later admitted she had been under surveillance for 18 months. Inside the movement, they called her Nightingale. She was quiet but relentless. Even before that, she had tried something bold. Between 1971 and 1973, she worked in secret with screenwriter Dalton Trumbo and director Peter Weir on a film called The Broken Chain. It was meant to expose apartheid to the world. The $2.3 million project would be filmed in Australia using South African actors who had fled their country. But then, CIA reports leaked the plan. South African officials got wind of it, and within 48 hours, every major studio dropped out. Wynter received death threats postmarked from Pretoria. Her insurance was cancelled. Still, she donated her full $180,000 investment to the ANC's education fund in Tanzania. She didn't stop there. In a private interview in 1987, she revealed how she had spent years convincing Hollywood celebrities to boycott South African deals. Her biggest success came in 1964 when she had a 3-hour dinner with Rock Hudson. After that talk, Hudson canceled a $95,000 tour in South Africa. Others followed. Marlon Brando, Elizabeth Taylor. 23 more joined. She created something called the Wynter List, a detailed record of South African goods like diamonds and wine. She passed this list around quietly, actor to actor. The South African Tourism Board even tried to bribe her with $50,000 in 1968. She didn't take it. The root of all this went back to 1949. Dana had studied at Rhodes University. Only 3 white students, including her, dared to protest against the segregated facilities. She saw firsthand how black students were forced to eat in worse dining halls, drink from separate water fountains, and study in lower-quality libraries. That pain stayed with her. She started writing essays in secret from 1950 to 1965. She called them Letters from the Heart of Darkness. There were 27 essays in total, over 400 pages, shared privately among activists and writers. In 1962, she tried to publish them as a book called The Color of Shame, but no publisher would touch it. They were afraid, so she locked them in a Geneva safety deposit box. They stayed hidden until 1994, when they were finally donated to the International Court of Justice. She started writing again in 1987. Her column, Grassroots, in The Guardian, caught everyone off guard. She wrote about life from her 2 homes in California and rural Ireland. She didn't hold back. She exposed how Hollywood stars were buying Irish estates worth $2.5 million to dodge U.S. taxes while pretending to support charities. One of her 1989 columns listed 7 celebrities avoiding $12 million in taxes. The Irish Parliament took notice. They changed the residency laws in 1990 because of what she uncovered. The Guardian got 847 angry letters. Some threatened lawsuits. She didn't care. Between 1991 and 1998, she published 23 more articles in National Review and Country Living. One article in 1993 revealed how 12 British families in southern Rhodesia kept apartheid alive by paying their black domestic workers 85% less than white ones. A 1996 article showed how Californian ranchers were charging Mexican workers $800 a month to live in old chicken coops. She had the photos and rent slips to prove it. Her reports led to $2.3 million in fines and government investigations. She got death threats and was banned from private clubs. Still, she kept writing. In 2005, she published her memoir, Other People, Other Places. The secrets in that book were shocking. Her father, a surgeon, had claimed he was operating on a Moroccan princess during the war in 1943. But she found files that said he was really doing experiments on German prisoners. He was part of British psychological warfare research. She found a diary describing 47 illegal procedures that broke the Geneva Convention. Then there were love letters from her stepmother to a Nazi officer planning to escape to Argentina. She also found out that her $125,000 Paul Henry painting had been stolen during World War II. Her book forced the British War Office to release 300 classified documents. From 1999 to 2003, she wrote 31 articles for the Irish Times. One in 2001 exposed how studio bosses in Hollywood kept secret blacklists of actresses who reported harassment. She showed how this blacklist ruined the careers of 18 women and cost them $85 million in lost roles. She had the memos to prove it. One studio even used private investigators to dig up dirt on those who spoke out. Her stories led to 3 congressional hearings and new rules from the Screen Actors Guild. Several executives resigned. In 2002, 5 major publishers offered her a total of $3.2 million to write Hollywood exposés. Random House offered $850,000 to write about her marriage to divorce lawyer Greg Boutzer and his famous clients. HarperCollins offered $1.1 million for stories about celebrity addictions. Bantam offered $750,000 to reveal secrets about her invasion of the Body Snatchers co-stars. She refused all of it. She said she would not trade her integrity for money. At the time, she was living on just $600 per month and had medical costs of over $25,000 a year. Some called her decision financial suicide, but collectors bought her rejection letters for $2,500 each. When she passed away on May 5th, 2011, it was in a quiet hospital in Ojai, California. She had been moved from intensive care that very morning. Her son, Mark, said she stepped off the bus very peacefully. What people didn't know was that Mark Reagan Boutzer, born in 1960, was the son of Greg Boutzer, the same man who had once dated Joan Crawford, Lana Turner, and Dorothy Lamour before marrying Dana in 1956. Her life was never about the spotlight. She left that world behind and died in peace, far from Hollywood's noise. Back in 1956, her role in Invasion of the Body Snatchers might have seemed small. It had a $380,000 budget and was shot in just 23 days. But her performance as Becky Driscoll became something much bigger. It helped shape the way women were shown in horror films for decades. That movie became a symbol of quiet resistance and was later selected for the National Film Registry. Critics said her style was smart, graceful, and different from the usual pinup roles of the time. She became a model for future heroines without ever asking to be. After her death, new investigations revealed how much her activism had cost her. She was never officially blacklisted, but directors avoided her. They didn't want someone who thought for herself in a time when actors were expected to stay quiet. She had joined the National Union of Journalists and the Foreign Press Association. That made her dangerous in the eyes of Hollywood. She never gave in. Her Irish home, Glenmacas, hidden in the Wicklow Mountains, wasn't just a place to rest. It was filled with rare art, religious relics, and cultural pieces from all over the world. Sybil Connolly featured it in her 1988 book, In an Irish House. That cottage told the real story of Dana Wynter, someone who didn't chase fame, but meaning. Even one of her paintings, Evening on Achill Sound, disappeared in a suspicious legal dispute. That home, like Dana herself, became a living memory of everything real and everything lost in the Hollywood dream.